Well, today, in addition to how blazingly hot it is outside, we may also feel a little bit of the blaze of fear after that reading from Ezekiel. Sounds like what's happening there is a really mean and vengeful God. God even sounds like he's very angry. It's like, go and strike them. Well, I've had enough of this. So before we kind of look at incidents that happen and worry that our God might strike us down, he says, go throughout the city and find the people that are not marked and strike them down, have no mercy, even little children. That sounds bad. It sounds like the kind of ammunition that maybe our friends who are atheists or agnostics might look at the scriptures and say, your God is not a loving God. Well, context is always important. And that sometimes that may sound like we're using an easy out. But this is Ezekiel. And if we know anything, if we've been to Mass a lot throughout our lives, we may remember some other parts of Ezekiel. Like the vision that he has of the dry bones. You remember that? Where he looks out into a field and there's this pile of dry bones, and yet the Spirit of the Lord comes upon them, and the bones regain their flesh, and then they are living beings. Well, for some reason, when we hear something somewhat fanciful and dramatic and metaphoric like that, we think, wow, that's a great image. But when we hear this, we go, uh-oh, God's really mean. Their people are right, atheists are right. No, throughout Ezekiel, he's experiencing these visions not of something that's actually happening, but as a prophet to give people certainly hope, but also an appropriate concern about what should be done to secure their future, to secure their life. And so this image that Ezekiel sees and describes here is essentially, we would now look back and say, this is a theology of judgment. So when we look at this in the context of Jesus talking about, yes, there will be the judge, and the Son of Man will judge those on his right and those on his left. And we say, well, I mean, that's appropriate. That's within Jesus' purview. He should do that. But we hear this from Ezekiel, we say, it's kind of scary. Part of that is the different way in which God communicated in the Old Testament versus the New Testament, but it's the same message. And the message is, essentially, that God will pass judgment. God does distinguish between those who, in the way he put it here, those who are just disgusted by the evil in the world, those who love God and want to see the love of God flourish on the earth. He distinguishes between that and those who persist in doing evil. God is not just one big, sort of happy, oh, everybody's great, everybody's fine. He loves all of his creation and desires that we would all respond well, but he also gives us free will, so we don't always. So judgment is a real thing. Now, what's interesting about this passage from Ezekiel is the mark that he has, so he's seeing this vision of guys with bows and arrows that are going to be the squad, the death squad. But then there's this one guy who's got around his belt, he's got just picture a big brush and a pen and ink. And he goes around to people and he puts this mark on them so that the guys in the death squad, who presumably are not as, enlightened as God, can just go around and go, aha, mark, don't kill. No mark, kill. Well, this for us foreshadows what we believe about baptism, albeit in a fairly crude image, but still, we believe that baptism puts an indelible mark on the soul. Now, it's not that God gets confused or there's so many people dying, how could I keep track? And they better have a mark that I'm going to look for. That mark is also for us. So in this situation in Ezekiel, people would be walking around town with this mark that says, I disagree with all the evil practices and the sins that are going around town. And others would see that mark. It doesn't say it's an invisible mark or it's a secret mark that only God can see. We believe that about us as people of faith, as baptized people, that we have an indelible mark put on us at the time of our baptism that will make a difference at the judgment, just like this. But it's also should be like this, something that is noticeable to people. Now, it's not a tattoo. It could be a cross around our neck that is maybe a little more visual. But we might ask ourselves after hearing this reading today, in what way do the people of this city notice the mark that I am a child of God, and that I listen to God, that I pray to God, and I don't pray to the things that the world would have me worship. And I don't agree with everything that goes on around us if it's against God's word. Do you and I have a mark like that? I mean, it's hard for me to escape when I walk through the city and I got the collar on. People go, hey, Father. But maybe it's not overtly visual. Sure, it might be a cross around our neck, but is there some other way that not only God, but others can notice that mark in us, that which marks us as carved out for God, as a holy people, as children of God who want to listen to God and not necessarily get sucked into all the dirt and the grime and the sin of the city that surrounds us. What is your mark? How is that indelible mark on your soul from your baptism demonstrated to the world today? Not just at our judgment, but even as we go forth from this church today.